Hi folks, it's Gary here, and it's a very warm welcome back to the fourth official here on YouTube for today's Blue Nose Bulletin. You will be very aware that I'm not here on my own. I've got a very special guest, Bryan Watson, from the Inside Ibrox site, and one of our regular voices over on Fourth Official Patreon is joining me here today. Bryan, how are we?
I'm not bad. Blushing a wee bit getting called a special guest. Gosh, Gary. A Wednesday
Oh,
afternoon, you know how to chase somebody up.
absolutely. Well, special guest from YouTube anyway. I'm not sure that you've been on this site all that often,
I have not.
but
You
yeah,
should do.
we are here to obviously give you all the latest transfer news as we are ticking down with just a couple of weeks left in the transfer window. And big news coming out of Rangers really in the last 24 hours or so has been very strong suggestions from the Nico Raskin camp that he has turned down the advances of Besiktas, and he has basically told Rangers that he is not interested in moving from Rangers in the World Cup year unless it's to a Big Five league. Very much seeing regular football at Ibrox under Danny Rule as his passport to the World Cup and to the United States with Belgium in the summer. Bryan, no real surprises, I think. Obviously, Nico had his problems with Russell Martin earlier on in the season, but he's finding some form again of late under Danny Rule at Ibrox, and he'll be a key performer for us between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. I think with Nico Raskin, I think we all maybe expected Nico to leave back in the summer off the back of his form um, under Barry Ferguson, half of last year for whatever reason it didn't materialise, and then as you say there, kind of a rough start to this season under Russell Martin. Took him a while to find his feet, but looks like he.
And I think if Rangers are to go and battle for this title against Celtic and against Hearts, he's going to be a key component of that. He's got to be driving the team on from the middle of the park. And I think Rangers would be silly to let him go this January. But it's nice to see as well that Nico has no intention of leaving this January and is really committed to trying to win Rangers this league title.
Yeah, and I think it's win-win there because he gets himself good football between now and the summer, keeps himself in that Belgian national side, has a good World Cup, and then his value is enhanced come the summer, and then he maybe gets that big move to a big league that we maybe saw happening last summer.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think even much to my frustration, I think a lot of other Rangers fans' frustration, Gary, like in our WhatsApp chat with all the other podders as well. It's been quite frustrating to maybe see Nico Raskin not turn up for Rangers in the first half of this season, but yet on international breaks, everyone's ranting and raving about him. I think it's clear that he's in that Belgian side. He's cemented his place in it. They'll be looking to obviously go and have a big World Cup, and I think Nico Raskin needs to make sure that he's playing week in, week out. Hopefully, a league title winner with Rangers, a Scottish Cup winner with Rangers, and he's firmly cemented himself in that starting 11 for Belgium come June.
One player who will be leaving Rangers during this transfer window, though, is Findlay Curtis, with a loan move to Kilmarnock, all but agreed. Just timing, waiting on that one. Obviously, Findlay Curtis will be involved in the squad for tomorrow night's Thursday night's Europa League game against the Ludogorets, given the fact that Rangers can't register any of the three new signings, Andreas Skov-Olsen, Chir Rommins, or Toshi Chukwuani. So that will be one probably after Porto next week that happens, and you'll get some much needed first team football between now and the end of the season under Neil McCann down at Rugby Park.
Yeah, I think the Kilmarnock move is going to be a good move for Findlay Curtis. I think it's something that Rangers haven't really done lots of recently. Beyond, I think, like Alex Lowry to Hearts a couple of seasons ago is actually loaning our players to teams in the league in which we play. I think it'll be a really good move from. Obviously, a bit different. Kilmarnock don't have, not having the best of seasons. Neil McCann recently coming in, trying to get them out that relegation playoff spot. It's going to be different for him, and I think it's going to be really good, especially for his work off the ball. I think that's been a criticism of our academy lads in general over the past couple of years. Is they're brilliant with the ball, they're brilliant in possession, but out of possession, a lot of work required. So I think maybe playing at Kilmarnock, where they're maybe going to be under the cosh more often than not, will be really good for his development overall. and hopefully he can provide quality with goals and assists to get Kilmarnock to safety this season.
Obviously working under Neil McCann, who would have seen him at close quarters last season as part of Barry Ferguson's management team, but was a player that played in a similar position to Findlay Curtis. He can obviously try and put some of that knowledge and experience onto Findlay Curtis and develop him further as a player. He obviously had a very good game against Annan for Rangers in the Scottish Cup last weekend. Kilmarnock out of the Scottish Cup, so no problems with him being cup tied there, but just a chance to play regularly. Given obviously Andreas Skov-Olsen coming into Rangers, it's an opportunity for him to get proper minutes between now and the end of the season and properly come back in the summer and challenge for a first team place next season.
Yeah, definitely. I think we all sort of seen that with Findlay Curtis and that goal against Panathinaikos. Obviously, I think dragged Rangers out a hole. At Paisley at the start of the season, getting a sort of a last gasp equaliser against St Mirren. His goal against Alloa as well in the League Cup early on the season. Like he's got quality. He can finish. He knows where the back of the net is. I think there is potential there. I think this is a really good opportunity for him to go out and show what he's got in the Scottish Premiership.
One player who will not be coming into Rangers during this window is Czechia striker Tomas Chivankara. Apologies for any Czechs watching. Maybe butchered that pronunciation, but he very much looks as if he's going to be heading on loan to the other side of the city. Currently on loan in Turkey with Antalyaspor, but the Czech forward, currently Borussia Mönchengladbach's player, was very prolific in his earlier days in Czech football with Prague, but has struggled a wee bit in the Bundesliga, hence why he's in Turkey at the moment. But loan with an option believed to be in the region of around about €7 million looks to be the deal to take him to Parkhead from now to the end of the season. Bryan, someone who's not scored a lot of goals recently, but is a big lump of a player, 6'4", knows where the back of the net is in a previous life, and very clear, obviously, that Celtic have been in the market for a striker during this window, and it looks as if Chivankara is going to be their man.
Yeah, I think obviously earlier on the day yesterday when Rangers were linked with him, we were all having a look at the boy and his stats and the obligatory YouTube highlights, etc. I think as much as the goal returns, maybe not very impressive in recent years. I think he has the physical attributes to succeed in the Scottish Premiership. As I was saying before we came on there, I wouldn't have been upset if Rangers had signed him, put it that way. But like, I think Celtic were always going to go and sign a striker this window. They absolutely had to. Johnny Kenny's not producing the goods for them. And this is, I think, the sort of best deal they'll get with obviously everything that's going on with their wider football department. No Paul Tisdale setting direction, no permanent manager. So I think they are just trying to get some extra bodies in the door to help Martin O'Neill's side through, which we obviously hope doesn't go to fruition, or doesn't happen rather. But I think, yeah, I think on paper a good profile for this league, and I think the way Celtic have sort of set up under Martin O'Neill with like loads of cross balls, and I think that's probably the idea of signing a striker of that profile.
Yep, across M8, obviously Hearts going to be very prominent in the transfer window now for the next couple of weeks, especially given the news that Lauren Shankland is joining Cammy Devlin on the sidelines for up to 8 weeks, and obviously that's two big, massive players for the Jambos going into the end of the season. The pre-contract for Rogers Mato looks as if that's going to be brought forward, although it doesn't look as if that deal is going to get done in time for their weekend match against Celtic at Tynecastle. And news has came out today that they have had a bid rejected for the Forest Green captain, who's going to be a kind of midfield option for them to come in. But Forest Green certainly not playing ball with regards to that. Lauren Mendy is his name, but he's someone who they've targeted in terms of an extra body in midfield.
Yeah, I think there's no getting away from it. I think the Lauren Shankland news is massive for the title race. We know the sort of player he is. As for Hearts, he's our captain, he's our talisman, and so much of that team goes through Lawrence Shankland, add on to the fact of Cammy Devlin being out, Benny Beringame being suspended, that's arguably 3 of Hearts' 5 best players out, are immediately unavailable in a period in which obviously they play Celtic at Tynecastle this Sunday coming up. They journey across the M8 to Ibrox in a few weeks. I think this will be kind of really sink or swim for Hearts in terms of their title challenge. They've obviously done brilliantly to kind of be setting the pace still at this point in the season, but I think title challenges are ultimately won and lost by the depth of your squad, and I think as good as Hearts have been this season, and they have been, and there's no getting away from that, I think they've been incredibly lucky with consistency in terms of lack of injuries, suspensions, being able to sort of play the same 11 week in, week out, and I think that's maybe catching up to them a wee bit. I seen you and Cameron on social media earlier on kind of maybe expressing his frustrations at Derek McInnes for the lack of rotation for the Falkirk game, with an eye to obviously Celtic coming to Tynecastle at the weekend. But listen, Hearts are a good side. They've got good players still there, Claudio Braga, Cazadires, and I'm sure Tony Bloom will help them out in the January window. So it's going to be really fascinating to see what Hearts do with those players being out.
Yep, obviously they're out of the Scottish Cup as well, losing Falkirk on Saturday night. From a Rangers perspective, a bit of dubiety, Bryan, about who their opponents in the next round will be, drawn against the winners of Stranraer versus Queen's Park game. That game was played last night with Stranraer winning on penalties. But we found out today that there's been a notice of complaint filed against Stranraer for the playing of an eligible player. Their goalkeeper that played last night saved a penalty in the penalty shootout, only signed on the day on loan from Hearts, but turns out that obviously he wasn't signed in time for the original game, which was going to be on Saturday, was postponed. This one I think is going to be interesting to see how it goes at that hearing, which has been scheduled for next Wednesday. Obviously, knowing that there's a big payday to come at Ibrox, I think both Queen's Park and Stranraer will be pleading their case.
Who doesn't love Scottish football? Honestly, look, I think from a Rangers perspective, doesn't matter who rocks up to Ibrox in the next round of the cup, whether it's Queen's Park or Stranraer. Rangers just need to win, and Rangers should be beating both teams. I think obviously Queen's Park will maybe come with a bit more drama, a bit more story, given the massive Scottish Cup upset that happened at Ibrox last season when Queen's Park deservedly dumped Rangers out of the cup. I still think one of the worst Rangers performances I've ever seen that day, and totally deserved. So maybe a wee bit more drama, a wee bit more, not tepidness, but a wee bit more caution around the game if it's Queen's Park. But I think from a Rangers perspective, if they want to go and win the Scottish Cup, like if they want to go and win the league, they just need to take it a game at a time and beat whoever's in front of them, whether that's Stranraer or Queen's Park.
Before that, though, tomorrow night on Thursday, as we mentioned earlier, Ludogorets coming to Ibrox, the final home Europa League tie of the season. And it's a game, Bryan, that holds a bit more significance than maybe we felt at the beginning of the week, given Olympiakos' win last night against Bayer Leverkusen in the Champions League, which is making that race for being top of that kind of automatic place straight into the Champions League next season should they win the league, and that's a very big proviso on there. But Olympiakos winning, which means a win for them next week when they travel to play Ajax in Amsterdam, would see them leapfrog Rangers without Rangers getting anything from their final 2 Europa League games. Obviously Ludogorets and then away to Porto next week. So seen some people suggest that maybe Rangers should play a weekend team on Thursday. It's one that Danny Rule certainly ruled out at today's press conference. Only really John Souttar going to be unavailable from the squad that's about. He's going to be missing not only for Thursday but also Sunday against Dundee in the league as well. But I'm expecting to see a pretty strong looking Rangers lineup as they look to try and sign off what's been a pretty dreadful European campaign this season with a win at Ibrox for the fans.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think this European campaign has been one to forget for Rangers. However, I think given where Rangers are within the context of the wider season, I think 2 good results against Ludogorets and Porto keeps up that momentum, keeps up the confidence. Obviously, knockout football is unfortunately not going to happen for Rangers this season. This adds a wee bit extra dynamism. This obviously Rangers need to go and win the title, which won't be any easy ask, but to keep the automatic Champions League spot alive, Rangers do need to go and get 3 points in a row. And I think ultimately, even if that wasn't the case, Rangers do need to go and beat Ludogorets, because I think the performances in Europe at Ibrox this season have been pretty pitiful. Genk was dreadful. Roma, to be fair, Roma are quality. But again, I don't think Rangers threatened much in that game, and then the Braga result and performance was desperately disappointing as well. And I know a lot was made at the start of the season about the kind of different ticket prices for the Europa League package this season. I myself, I'm 47 quid per game for this package, as I'm sure lots of others are. So it would be nice for Rangers to actually go out there and put in a performance and get a result on the night. And then obviously set ourselves up to go over to Porto next week with a chance of fighting for something.
Yep, and full coverage of that Ludogorets game will be available over on our Patreon channel. It's www.patreon.com/the4thofficial. If you're not yet a subscriber over there, you can join us for less than £3 per month. You can get access to all of our podcasts, all of our match reaction, all the opinion pieces and articles that are on there. As I say, less than £3 a month. We would love to see you over there. Big thank you to Bryan for joining us on this one. As I say, lots to happen, I think, over the course of the next couple of weeks in terms of ins and outs as part of the transfer window. We'll keep you well abreast of all the situation here on the Fourth Officials YouTube channel. We'll speak to you next time. Goodbye.